One of the most common questions that I get is, can we fly in a national park? Let's dig into that. Hello and welcome to Legal Drone, where we talk about drones and other tech stuff. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Before we begin, as always, this is not legal advice. One question that I get a lot is, can we fly in a national park? And I get it. Flying in a national park can be a great experience for the flyer and the person taking pictures and video, because national park has stunning views, and I love going to national parks because I really love nature, and I know that a lot of people do love nature. So I figured that I'd make a video, a short one, about the restrictions on drone flying in national park. In August 2014, the National Park Service issued a memorandum stating the restrictions on drone flying in national parks. So the National Park Service Director issued this memorandum under the authority stated in 36 CFR Part 1.5. So the National Park Service can regulate what you do on national parks grounds, and that is basically like states doing their thing on their land use powers. Well, the national parks also have their land use powers, and I made a video about state regulations that you can go here and watch it, where I talk about in detail about the land use powers of states. So this land use power is basically the same for the National Park Service when you are in National Park Service grounds. And basically the National Park Service made it illegal to fly drones, or at least operate drones within national parks grounds. And the basis for this restriction was that drones normally disturb other people and wildlife within the national parks. As we know, a lot of people visit national parks during the year, and the National Park Services don't want drone flyers to be disturbing other people and other wildlife in the national parks. So very important to understand, the National Park Services cannot regulate airspace. This has to be very clear. They cannot regulate the airspace. All they can do is regulate what you do within national parks grounds. The parts of the national parks that are public, that are part of the National Park Service, because within national parks we have also private lands, and in those private lands the National Park Services don't have any power because they are private. So if you go to the memorandum and further clarification by the national parks, you will see that this restriction is basically a restriction on landing and takeoff and operating your drone within national parks grounds. So if you are standing in a national park, you cannot be manipulating the remotes of your drone. And the penalty for a violation of such can be as much as $5,000. So what about if you take off your drone outside the national park's ground and you operate the remote outside a national park's ground? So the National Park Services doesn't have jurisdiction over that operation because you are doing it outside the national park's ground. So that will fall under the FAA jurisdiction of the regulation of airspace. Also, you have to understand that even if you are operating your drone within national parks, the FAA still have jurisdiction over the airspace and over the operation. So national parks rangers have to understand that if you're flying, even if you're flying illegally, they will have to allow you to land your drone safely, because that is an operation that still falls into the FAA jurisdiction, and they have to understand that you have to do it safely. So that landing of the drone, you have to do it following all the safety guidelines of the FAA, and the park ranger has to understand that. So if they come and they start talking to you, you still can tell them, wait, I am operating a drone, I will land it, and after I land it, I will talk to you. Because they have to do that. They have to wait for you to do that. They cannot disturb you while you are flying your drone, even if you are flying your drone illegally. And to add to that, if you are flying your drone outside the national park's ground, or at least you took off your drone and you are operating it outside the national park's ground, you are flying your drone legally. So the National Park Services don't have any jurisdiction over that. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people find some private properties outside the national parks or even within the national parks, and they fly their drone from there. But you have to keep in mind that even if you are able to take off and operate your drone from that particular property, you're gonna still need to follow all the FAA rules, like flying within the visual line of sight, and you cannot fly over people, and you cannot fly recklessly. So you need to follow all those guidelines. And when you're flying in a national park, it can be challenging to at least don't fly over people. So you have to keep those things in mind when you are flying your drone, even if you're flying it outside national parks grounds. So you need to keep in mind that you have to follow all the FAA rules. So if you want to take a picture of a particular place in the national park, you need to be very careful that you are still flying within the visual line of sight. So flying within the visual line of sight is not flying your drone in a direction that you are there's a straight line from your eyes. You have to be able to see your drone at all times. So yes, you can watch your screen for a brief period of time, but after that, you need to be able to see your drone in the sky. So that's all for this video. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and that notification bell. If you want to see more drone law videos, you can click here. If you want to see drone footage, you can click here, and see you next time.